Hello grade 12s, welcome back to another video. So in today's video we'll be doing this business studies paper 2 that was written in June 2022. It was from the KwaZulu-Natal province and it's downloaded from the stanmorephysics.com website. Okay, it was 50 marks or 1.5 hours. So I'm not going to be doing section A, which is multiple choice question. We'll just go right into longer question. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get right into the video. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. The more you like this question paper, I will do another question paper a different year in order for you to have different question papers to practice with. So please like this video. The more you like it, the more I'll be compelled to do another video. Okay, so this is question 2. It's business ventures. Here are all the questions, but I want us to answer these questions in a memo so that we can just do this fast, and I don't want this video to be long. I'm recording it quite late. So here are the types of preference shares. You have participating preference shares, we have non-participating preference shares, cumulative preference shares, non-cumulative preference shares, redeemable preference shares, non-redeemable preference shares, convertible preference shares, and non-convertible preference shares. So the maximum of this was 4 marks. You asked to give 4. So here I have a video where I talk about all this preference shares and all that. I will try to link it in the description box down below. But if it's not there, you will find it on this channel about securities. Okay, it's a video on business studies about securities. If you want to learn more, I explained all of these things there clearly. So types of preference shares: participating, non-participating, cumulative, non-cumulative, redeemable, non-redeemable, convertible, and non-convertible. So you just have to know participating, cumulative, redeemable, and convertible, and then you know that it's non for the opposite of each one. Okay, and then the second one says advantages of unit trust as a form of investment. So what are the advantages of a unit trust as a form of investment? So a unit trust is managed by a fund manager who buys shares on the stock exchange. So you are not doing it yourself. There is a manager who's responsible for buying shares for the unit trust. It's easy to cash in when investors need money. You just sell the shares. So a small amount can be invested per month and generally beats inflation on the medium and long term. And all the other ones that are here. And then they said any other relevant answer must be given a mark. So you're not restricted to whatever that has been given here. So for 2.3, let's read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Gertrude invested 50,000 in a fixed deposit for 2 years. The bank offered her interest at a rate of 15% per annum. She would earn interest on the original amount invested as well as the interest incurred from previous periods. So Gertrude invested 50,000 rand, which is the starting amount, in a fixed deposit. The bank offered her interest of 15% per annum. She would earn interest on the original amount invested as well as interest accrued from previous periods. So meaning that this is compound interest. So 2.3.1 says states the type of interest applied by this bank. It's compound because she will be earning interest on the original amount as well as interest accrued from previous periods. So every month or every year they will add the interest end that year, and she would also earn for the second year she will earn interest on the interest that she earned on top of the interest that she earned the previous years. So that is compound. And then motivate by quoting from the scenario. That is it. She would earn interest on the original amount invested as well as interest accrued from previous periods. So that is the code that we will use to motivate what we are saying. And then 2.3.2 says calculate the amount of interest Gertrude will receive after 2 years. So how much will Gertrude receive after 2 years that you are asked to calculate? She started with 50,000, earning an interest of 15%. So just say 15 divided by 100, and yeah, just don't write the 15 as 15%. Sometimes it might just give you wrong, but it's you for you to be safe, say 15 divided by 100, and whatever that you get is the one that you're going to write as I. And let's look at the calculation. So the starting amount, the amount in which you start with, it's P, okay? It's always P. What you initially invested, it's P. A is what you get after the investment period with that formula. So he invested 50,000 rand, multiplied by 1 plus 15 divided by 100. Yes, it's safe to say 15 divided by 100 rather than to say 15%. And then N is the period, number of years. Okay, so the P is the amount that you invested, the R is the rate in which the percentage, and then N is the number of years. So the number of years is 2 years, and then R it's 15 over 100, which is 15%, and then the money that she get is 66,126. That's how much money she will get after 2 years. Now they want you to calculate total interest end. You take the final amount, which is 66,125, subtract the original amount. So which means she got interest of 16,125. So when they are looking for interest end, you look for A. After getting how much she will earn after 2 years, the total amount, you take the total amount, including the original investment, and then you subtract the amount that she started with, and then you will get how much money, how much interest she earned. Okay, here says award full 5 marks if the final answer is correct, but no workings are shown. So even if there are no workings, you get your full 5 marks, but just show your workings, guys. If formula and workings were shown incorrectly, but the final answer is wrong, award a maximum of 3 marks. You see, so you, even if you get the answer wrong, but you having the correct formula, but having you having the correct, if the formula and workings are right, everything was right, but you maybe made a small mistake somewhere, at least you get 3 out of 5. If workings and final answer is incorrect, award 1 mark for the formula. So it's very important that you write the formula. Formula is A equals to P times 1 plus R to the power of N. Okay, that one, it's the formula. It starts with A equals to, where they've written formula, that A is what it is. Now 2.4, we have to distinguish between leadership and management. What is the difference between leadership and management? Leaders are born while management are elected, okay, trained. So leaders influence human behavior, but management guides human behavior. So leaders will encourage you to be good people. They will encourage you to do things willingly, which are good and stuff like that. But managers will just tell you this is what you have to do and you have to abide by it. And then communicates by means of interaction, behavior, vision, value, and charisma. While management communicates through management function, we know the line functions, the 8 management functions that we know, because when you are the CEO, you don't come and see the bottom workers, you communicate to the ground level workers using other middle people who are working in the business. And then leaders innovate, encourage new ideas to increase productivity, while management administers plans, programs, tasks to reach target. So they're target orientated. Okay, those are management, while leaders focus on inspiring staff and supporting each other. And then also leaders focus on what and why, while management focus on how and when. Okay, and then leadership focuses on horizon, long term, while management focus on the bottom line. So those are the distinctions between leaders and management. Okay, and then these other ones here, still more. You don't have to say the exact thing that is written here, but context should be correct. So here are the notes. The answer does not have to be in tabular form, so you don't have to make a table. You can say management and then skip a line, and then leadership, and then write them. So the distinction does not have to be linked, but must be clear. So it doesn't have to link it as they say, or leaders are goal orientated, and then at the same time you say management are people orientated, and then the opposite of it is that management are goal orientated. So they don't have to correlate like that. Okay, even if they are just mixed up, but as long as you have made a distinction. Award a maximum of 2 if the distinction is not clear. Mark either leadership or management. Okay, yes. So, and then 2.5.1 says identification of leadership styles. So let's look at this. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Simunye Traders ST. Daniel is a manager of Simunye Traders who encourages employees to contribute ideas to improve the sales and profit of the business. John is the owner who makes all the decision on his own. Name the leadership style that is applied by Daniel and John. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. So you're going to use the table as a guide, the leadership style of Daniel and John, and then you motivate. When you quote from the scenario. So it here says here, Daniel is democratic, participative, and consultative because he's someone who encourages employees. Anyone who wants the well-being of employees and encourage them and make sure that they're doing better is a democratic, a participative, or a consultative leader. Uses a consultative leadership style. But John tells them what to do. He's autocratic. Okay, so those are how you answer, and then you quote from the scenario to motivate your answer. So note, do not award marks for motivation code if the leadership style is incorrect. So you cannot be marked one part. The motivation depends on the leadership style. Okay, so if the leadership style is incorrect, your motivation will not be marked. So you must learn your work and know them. So let's talk about impact of leadership style. 2.5.1 democratic leadership style impact on the democratic leadership style on businesses. Okay, so let's look at the positive impact of democratic leadership style on businesses. That is where they have democracy. Okay, that's where leaders allow employees to participate in the decision making. So when you talk about democratic, think about democracy. Someone who is bringing democracy and freedom in the workplace. Someone who cares about staff. Staff gives a variety of ideas, inputs, feedback, viewpoints that can lead to innovation and improve production methods and increased sales. So they not just say, I know everything and you are gonna listen to me. No, they involve everybody and make sure that everybody has something to contribute to the table, and they listen to them and make sure that we grow this business as a collective and not as individuals. And then the negative impact of democratic leadership style is that incorrect decisions may be made if staff is inexperienced or not fully informed. Sometimes when the boss allows them to contribute a lot, sometimes they might make mistake because of their lack of experience. And then decision making may be time consuming because people have to be consulted. Now they have to go to everyone to hear what is their opinion. So making a decision is not like in autocratic where you just say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do, and then you run with it with the boss. But here you're consulting everybody, so it takes time to make decisions, and leaders can rely too much on the input of followers and fail to make a final decision. And sometimes you want to involve them so much that you even forget that you are a leader. And all those. Or we can say autocratic leadership. Positive impact of autocratic leadership style is that quick decision making can be done. Works get Work gets done in time and schedule because you're just told, hey, this is what you have to do, and nobody has to be consulted and whatsoever. And then we still have any other relevant answer, so you are not just limited to this ones. Employees may feel discouraged if their opinion inputs are not considered. They might feel belittled, and experienced and skilled employees may leave the business as they feel undermined because they have so much input to put to the table, but they are not allowed to. Let's go back and look at what the question really wanted. I'm just at the memo. Let's look at the question. Oh, we were asked to discuss the impact of any discuss the impact of any one of the leadership style named in the question. So impact can be positive, which is an advantage, or can be negative, which is a disadvantage. So you just look, what do you want to do? Do you want to talk about the advantage as an impact or disadvantage? The different types of impact. If you're not specified to state the disadvantages, well, you can choose whether you want to be negative or positive. Okay, you want to give positive impact or negative impact. All right, these are the functions of the Johannesburg Security Exchange, the JSE. It gives opportunities to financial institutions such as insurance companies to invest their funds in shares. It serves as a barometer indicator or economic conditions in South Africa, keeps investors informed on share prices by publishing the share prices daily, acts as a link between investors and public companies. So it helps people trade their own shares and others to buy. It mobilizes the funds of insurance companies and the institutions. It facilitates electronic trading of shares, encourages short-term investments, or any other relevant answer. That's correct. And then situation in which transactional leadership style can be applied in the workplace. When can transactional leadership style be applied in the workplace? When the business wants to maximize employee performance, when deadlines have to be met on short notice under pressure, workers have a low morale. The strategy slash business structure do not have to change. Okay, so when the strategies or business structure do not have to change, we introduce transactional leadership style. Okay, let's look at examples of unfair. What are the examples of unfair advertising? Advertising whereby it's misleading. Number one says giving goods deceptive names, false labeling, praising a product for what it's not worth, and then selling second-hand goods as new goods. Those are examples. Exaggerating the merits of the product or false promises, using fine print to conceal important information, criticizing competitors' goods. That is an example of unfair advertising or any other relevant answer. And then challenges posed by abuse of work time. When people abuse time at work time, they decrease productivity and profits will be lost. If you just say decrease productivity, it's a half sentence. Say and profit, what will be the result of that? You get me? That's how you're able to give out a full sentence. So it's very important that you practice how to give out full sentences so that you get your full 2 marks. Sometimes you might be surprised why, but it's because you gave a half sentence. And then businesses cannot meet deadline, thus a blocking in production time frame. So there, I think it was a mistake where they give 1. It's supposed to be 2 marks because it's a full. Because businesses cannot meet deadline. It's number 1. Thus, a backlog in production time frames. You see, so they finished the question. So wasting time costs money. It's another one, and lessens cash flow. You understand? So like things like that. And then let's go to 3.3.1. Let's look at this. Zamani Technologies. Zamani Technologies started a new business specializing in developing computer softwares and repairing of computers. The management of ZT treats workers with respect and dignity by recognizing work well done. They also ensure that employees work in a work environment that is conducive to safety. So 3.3.1 says identify the two ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practice have been conducted by ZT. So, what do you mean? You code is that the management at ZT treat workers with respect/dignity by recognizing well done. Okay. They also ensure that employees work in an environment that is conducive to safety. All right, so that is the code. Explain 3.3.26. Explain other two ways in which professionalism, responsible, ethical, and effective business practice should be conducted. So those are the two answers there. Exactly what I have quoted. So other ways to show professional, responsible, ethical, and effective business practice is by having a mission statement. It should include values of quality and respect. Treat all your employees equally, regardless of their race, color, age, gender, disability, etc. All workers should have access to equal opportunities, position, and resources. Plan properly and put preventative measures in place, and pay fair wages or salaries, which is in line with the minimum requirements. Um, yeah. So of Basic Conditions of Employment Act remunerate employees for working overtime and during holidays, and any other of those that are stated there. And then now, accountability as a king code principle of good governance. How do you take account? How do you practice accountability as a king code principle of good corporate governance? There must be regular communication between management and stakeholders. Companies should appoint internal and external auditors to audit financial statements. The board should ensure that the company's ethics are effectively implemented, and businesses should be accountable, responsible for their decisions and actions. So, here you only asked for a maximum of 4. 2 full sentences award you 4 marks. And then 3.5, here are the strategies to deal with pricing in rural areas. You work together with suppliers to share delivery cost to remote rural areas, because prices in rural areas are quite high. So this is how they can reduce them. Businesses can buy in bulk to get a discount to avoid charging higher prices. They must charge fair market related prices for goods and services, and then avoid unethical business practices to attract customer loyalty. Let's look at this. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Quick Meals. Quick Meals specializes in selling fried fish and chips. Management has observed a decline in sales. Experts were requested to complete a questionnaire on how to solve the business problem. Employees were requested to work in groups and generate ideas. Identify the two problem solving techniques that were applied by QM and motivate your answer. And you do that in a form of a table. Pause the video, try this question out, and let's meet up to discuss the answers. And that was brainstorming. And then motivations, experts were requested to complete a questionnaire on how to solve their business groups and generate ideas. So we have brainstorming. That is the technique used. Do not award marks for motivation code if the problem solving technique is incorrect. So this one's the problem solving and the motivation should both be correct. Impact of problem solving techniques, positive, and these are the advantages of Delphi technique. Businesses may use a group of experts without bringing them together. The experts will give the business clear ideas, solution on how to improve on productivity and profitability. Information received from experts can be used to solve complex business problems. And then its disadvantage is that people get ideas from others and build on them. Stimulates creative thinking in the workplace. Uh, this is the advantages of brainstorming. We asked, yeah, and then better solutions are developed, and then combination of ideas improved can be done. Those are the advantages of brainstorming, application of force field analysis. So let's go back to 6.3.2, the question. 6.2.6 again 3.6.2 says discuss the positive impact of any of the techniques identified in question. Oh, it's brainstorming, it's Delphi, because you're bringing in experts. Yeah, Delphi technique. So yeah, his problem it's brainstorming and the Delphi technique. So you do the advantages of them as well. So it's very important to get 3.6.1 because 3.6.2 depends on it. And then now we're going to look at 3.7, advise businesses on the application of force fields problem solving technique. So this is the application of force field analysis. Describe the current situation, problem, and the desired situation. So you can go through all that, not limited to this, because any other relevant answer also applies. Now let's go to question 4. It's miscellaneous topics. So it's a combination of question 2 and 3. And then examples of non-insurable risks that you cannot insure. It's nuclear weapons, change in fashion, improvement, change in technology, irrecoverable debts, shoplifting during business hours, possible failure of a business. All those are not things that cannot be insured. So let's look at 4.2. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. The owner of Valtrin Suppliers were happy to notice a substantial increase in the bank balance on the 28th of February 2022. They want to invest the surplus funds to increase financial stability. The form of investment must be easily converted into cash. Identify the factor that the business owners of VS should consider before making the investment. Motivate your answer. That is liquidity. If you be able to pay off your debts, like before you make any form of investment, liquidity ratios should be satisfied. For those who do accounting, they know. And then motivate your answer by quoting is that the form of investment must be easily converted into cash. So that's why liquidity. And then 4.2.2 says discuss risks as the other factor that the owner of VS should consider before making an investment. So pause the video and do 4.2.2 and 4.3. Explain the following types of shares: ordinary shares and bonus shares. And then 4.4 suggests 2 reasons why the employees may prefer the laissez-faire or free reign leadership style. So yeah, you can pause the video and do 4.2.2 to 4.4. So these are the answer. And then risks as an investment factor. Shares have low medium risk over long investment period. So share prices are volatile, unstable, unpredictable, may increase, decrease sharply within hours, which contribute to the uncertainty of the value of an investment in shares on the short term. And then types of shares: ordinary shares. Ordinary shares only receive dividends when profit is made. Normally, the higher the net profit, the higher the dividend. Shareholders are the last to be paid if the company is declared bankrupt or liquidated. Dividends vary from year to year. So that's what explain what ordinary shares and bonus shares. Payment in a form of shares to shareholders issued as compensation for unpaid dividends. So instead of the company paying them dividends, they would give them bonus shares. And then reason why the employees may prefer laissez-faire or free rein leadership style is because workers' followers are allowed to make decisions on their own work or method, and then subordinates have maximum freedom and can work independently. And then leaders motivate workers by trusting them to do things themselves on their own. Authority is delegated, which can be motivating, empowering to competent workers and increase productivity. So that is 4.4 and any other relevant answer. And then here we're on business rules. Guys, if you choose question 4, it's when you know little of business ventures and you know little of what you know little of what is asked in question 2 and little of what is asked in question 3. Then you choose question 4 and what you know better in either question 2 or 3. But if you know question 3 best and you know question 3, you know everything well, you can just go and answer question 2 and question 3. Question 4 is nice. It's a mixture of question 2 and question 3. Remember that. So, examples of unauthorized use of workplace funds and resources. What is an example of unauthorized use of workplace funds and resources? Is when employees who download music and movies using the business resources. That is unauthorized use of workplace funds, the internet. An employee who uses business resources for his or her personal gain. And any other relevant answer will be taken there. So get on your thinking head and think. It's very easy to pass this subject. Identification of the type of unethical business practice. So what can you look at and say this is an unethical business practice? That is tax evasion, when they do not pay tax, or pricing of goods in rural areas can be examples of unethical business practice. Application of brainstorming as a problem-solving technique. So state define the business problem clearly. Member state possible causes of the business problem. Set a time limit. So that is the application. How do you apply brainstorming? That is how you apply it. And then 4.8 says ways in which a business can create an environment that stimulates or promotes creative thinking. How can you create a workplace where creative thinking is just like on power? It's high. People are able to be creative and think. Is to emphasize the importance of creative thinking, is to encourage staff to come up with new ideas, opinions, and solutions, is to make time for brainstorming sessions, is to place suggestion boxes around the workplace, is to train staff in innovative techniques, and is to encourage job swaps within the organization and also encourage alternative ways of working or doing things. So that is the end of part 4. It's late now. I will do a separate video where I cover all the essay questions of business studies, EMS, not EMS, sorry, where I cover all the essay topics in business studies. A video will drop soon, before you write soon, so that you can learn also how to write an essay if you're still struggling, because I know there's still students who are still struggling, whether they're in matric, to write an essay. That I decided to make this a separate video. Until the next one, guys, bye.